Welcome back to another exciting episode of Iron Rage, a very special edition. Not only am I joined by John Romano, I am also joined by Lee Priest by way of Australia today. Today's topic is Meegan Hefford, the girl who died of protein overdose. First of all, I want to start off, guys, by saying it's always horrible to hear anyone dying, an unfortunate, and even if it's a very rare type of death. Especially anyone who competes and participates in our industry. So I want to just start off the show by saying that, we all send our prayers and condolences out to the Hefford family. She was a mother, and it's a terrible thing when anyone dies. But the cause of death was a very rare disorder that she didn't know she had called urea cycle disorder, which basically means when you eat protein and it normally gets converted into ammonia, the ammonia then is converted into urea, which then your kidneys will release via the urine. In this rare disorder, what happens is the ammonia doesn't convert to urea, and it stays as ammonia. And the more protein you eat, the higher the ammonia levels go in the blood, and then obviously that can be toxic. It can cause brain damage. It can cause death in her cases, which is what happened. And but what's happening now is the parents are vilifying the fact that she competed, that she ate a high protein diet. Basically, they're saying that the industry killed her daughter by, instilling the fact that she should be eating a lot of protein. Now, I want to go to John first. John, this reminds me a lot of the Taylor Hooten story where Taylor's parents blamed the steroids for the kids committing suicide. We don't need to go into all the details of that. What's your take on this whole affair?
Well, it kind of follows the age-old mantra: if you have no excuse or no explanation, blame a steroid or blame a supplement. So this just is part of that routine. I mean, the fact that the girl had an undisclosed disease is the issue. Whether she could have died eating at McDonald's, it's irrelevant that she was a bodybuilder or a bikini girl or whatever. Her cause of death was her inability to process the toxin getting off by too much ammonia because she couldn't metabolize protein. Period. End of story. So you want to blame something? That's what you blame. But people need to blame things that are like more nefarious sounding than a roast beef sandwich. So you blame bodybuilding, you blame competition, you blame supplements, you blame drugs. People need a reason, and that's what you're going to get.
Now let's go all the way over to Australia to the newly anointed vegetarian himself, Lee Priest.
Yes. Going vegan and vegetarian as of today. I don't trust proteins anymore.
Lee.
Yeah, it's like it's a sad thing that happened, but how many people have we known through the years that in the body would have abused their bodies beyond belief with drug use, and on top of that, protein. I'm probably one that takes more protein than I need. A lot of us do. So I've never heard of it before, and to turn around and say protein causes when in fact the girl was probably healthy if she was competing, training, doing cardio, eating correctly, but it's hard to say too. How long has she been? I think she's been doing it a couple of years. So to me, if you took the protein supplements out, she must have been eating protein because most girls on diets eat eggs, fish, chicken, steak. So did that not metabolize in her body as well? So whether it's building up over these years and the protein powder just added to that. But it'd be interesting to know because I know a lot of girls, if they're over here in Australia where it happened, have coaches. They write down everything. They're meticulous in what they eat, how many grams of this. So I'm sure she might have books lying around saying how many grams of protein she was eating per day. So it'd be interesting to look into that just to see how much she was having, because a lot of girls she look like a figure type girl. I've never really seen any of those type of girls sort of really go crazy on protein and overdose on protein where it's to that point where the body just won't break it down. But like I said, if she has that disease and it can't break it down, at what level couldn't it break down? Is 50 grams too much for her? Is 40 grams too much? And if she was taking 120 grams, well, you don't know. So, yeah, but to blame it on protein powders is just sort of, like John said, people look for an excuse to try and blame it on something, and they're going to go at this. Whether, like I said, the other lifestyle, I've had friends that have had problems before, and they'll be bodybuilding, training for contests, and on weekends they go out and party, do drugs, do this, end up in hospital. They blame the steroids. It wasn't the cocaine and all the ecstasy pills they had at the music festival they went to. You're a bodybuilder. It's always got to be the sport of bodybuilding that causes the problems. I remember there was a thing here in Australia on one of the boards the other day about some bodybuilder had a heart attack, and they just said, how many bodybuilders have heart attacks and this sort of thing. I'm thinking, well, how many general public have heart attacks? people seem to forget bodybuilders, no matter what, you're still human. We still get human problems. Sure, some things we do might help that along quicker or something, but we don't know. But yet, if 10 bodybuilders had heart attacks out of all the bodybuilders, that's not too bad considering the general population where thousands of people have heart attacks every day who have never been to a gym. So, like I said, I just want to blame it on something. And sadly, I guess protein is going to be the cause of this now. But a lot of the protein powders don't have, and even if you have a gym, most gym on the machines have a sticker, consult your physician before any type of training, diet or vigorous activity. Have these stickers and labels on proteins. They have it on weight training machines. Consult your physician before you take any type of weight training activity. So there are warnings out there, because I know the parents were saying that more warnings should be put out there. But, you wouldn't think you'd need a warning just for eating healthy and doing something that sort of benefits your body.
Well, what's terrible about the whole thing is that they're vilifying, protein supplementation. Once again, it's bad enough that, people don't know anything about supplements to begin with, and they think that, creatine is a steroid, and they think that protein powders are steroids. Cases like this just create fear in the public. I mean, the mother is quoted as saying, I didn't even know my daughter was using protein shakes or supplements until her death. When she discovered the mother, I guess, said, discovered half a dozen containers of protein shakes in her daughter's kitchen. She believes the supplements and shakes were purchased online where there are not enough restrictions, which she wants to end. Restricting the supplement industry because of a disorder that occurs in 1 out of 8,600 people is really not responsible. I think a more responsible message would be to send to the general population, go get tested, get blood work on a regular basis. If something like this runs in your family, which it usually does, then you should be tested for this type of a disorder. No one knows, you see these guys in high school, they die on the basketball court, they're in the best shape of their life, and they didn't know they had an arrhythmia, they didn't know that they had, weak vessels in their brain, and they got an aneurysm and died. People die all the time spontaneously. It's just impossible to diagnose everything. To blame an entire industry of health products that are actually good for the consumer, as opposed to vilifying the real villains, which are what? Alcohol, tobacco, and the list goes on. Is just pure right irresponsible, and it irks me. And it's sad that this girl died because she was a pretty girl and she had a whole future in front of her. She was a mother, but. I think it's very irresponsible for the parents, because of their grieving process, to go out there and send messages that are not true. John?
Well, what happens is by virtue of blaming the protein, which obviously is zero to do with the grand scheme of things for the general population, they're not doing. You gloss over what you should be doing, which is what you said. Make sure you get tested and know that you don't have these disorders. But the problem is, it's because it was related to something having to do with bodybuilding or physique, figure, bikini, whatever. Because if you have a bowler who dies of a heart attack, and I'm sure that per capita bowlers die of heart attack at a far greater rate than bodybuilders, how come we're not out mounting a campaign to ban nachos and cheese and beer and popcorn with extra butter and other crap they serve at the bowling alley? How come we're not trying to go out and close bowling alleys? But all of a sudden, you get a young girl who's a mom. It's a sad story. She dies from taking too much protein, and now the witch hunt is to close down protein supplements, put more restrictions on them. Does that mean if you have a car accident, we should have more restrictions on cars? I mean, who's responsible here? It's not the protein powder. But obviously, like I said before, the family, it's a sad thing. The girl died. They need a reason. They want to blame something, and they want to have a purpose that they've done something to avenge the death. So they're gonna rally for more restrictions on protein powder purchased, oh my God, over the internet, the dark web, Silk Road shit. That's what's happening here.
Lee,
it's ridiculous.
Lee, you're from Australia, Lee. What's the regulation? Do they give a crap? I know the American public goes crazy when these parents go on crusades. What about Australia? Will they give a crap about this mother, or will they ignore it?
No, unless you're in the bodybuilding scene over here and on the boards, you wouldn't even hear about it here unless think it might have been on the news once, but that's about it. But it's even the way the mother put it, where she goes, I didn't even know my daughter was taking protein supplements and that sort of thing. It's almost like someone saying, I didn't even know my daughter was doing cocaine or drugs. They're putting it in the same category, like it's such a shock. Well, I went to my mum's house the other day and I couldn't believe she was drinking chamomile tea. I thought she drank coffee. It's like, wow, if the tea kills her, I'll have to go with that. But to blame it on the protein powder is like I said, I'm sure she just wasn't having protein powder. I'm sure her diet consisted of chicken, consisted of fish, maybe tuna, and all this other stuff. So why aren't they blaming that? Why aren't they blaming the steak? Because it's got protein in it. Why aren't they blaming the chicken breast? So, you can't just go and vilify protein powders, although even though some of them should be vilified because they taste like shit. So, but, to actually kill people is like a different thing altogether.
Well, I guess the the answer to the question is, restrictions don't save lives. Okay, they sometimes make things worse. You have to evaluate what happened, understand that it's a one-time thing that probably we'll never see again in our industry. I mean, look what happened to Baito Abaspor, the poor guy in the prime of his bodybuilding career. No one knows why he dies. He got a rare disorder. I mean, it was just genetic, and the vasculitis killed him. It was nothing he was eating. It was nothing he was taking. It wasn't his body weight. He got bad luck. That's what he rolled the dice and got a bad hand. And that's really what happened to this Meegan girl. And like I said, we obviously send out our prayers and condolences, but do not condemn the industry or a huge industry in all our countries for the death of one person. Now, I want to ask you, since I got you both here, what is your take on the Lee, on the whole Rich Piana passing out, being sent to the hospital, put into a medically induced coma?
Much protein.
Too much protein. That's what I thought too. Yeah. They said they found a lot of white powder with a straw on his table, so maybe that was what it was. Maybe it was whey isolate on there.
No, he takes his creatine different to us. That's all. It gets into the system quicker if you snort your creatine.
That's right.
It could have been glutamine because it's a lot finer powder. And like I said before, if you try and get a straw and shelve it, it's pretty hard. So snorting is probably a lot quicker.
Well, hopefully Rich.
But don't stick at when the whole thing with Rich Piana came out, I was a bit disgusted just from all those stupid comments that go online about, just talking total trash, wishing harm on someone. People saying it's coming in. I think Sean Ray was talking about karma and all this bullshit. It's like, until you know the whole facts, just keep your mouth shut. But what I don't get is, I'm sure you have followers, we all have followers that are so negative towards bodybuilding. They put bodybuilding down, talk about drug use, but yet they follow us. It's like, if you don't like bodybuilding, you don't like people in bodybuilding, why follow the sport? There's a lot of sports out there I hate, but I don't go online and abuse the players in golf and tennis and all this sort of shit. I just haven't got time for it. So why people continually just follow bodybuilding, but every post they put up is negative and wishing harm on people, I have no idea whatsoever why they even choose to follow the sport. So, and like I said, sadly that even Sean Ray comes out with stupid comments about it. Well, it's like, but he comes out with stupid shit all the time. So, what can you do?
Lee, why would
there's someone, Sean Ray, I'm going to send him actually another 10 tubs of protein. God, we can only hope.
Lee, why do you think that Sean Ray would say karma on Rich Piana when I'm sure he's got plenty of karma hanging over his head himself? I mean, why in his right mind, why would anyone say that, when a guy in our industry, goes down like that?
Now, who knows why Sean says what he says? It's even like when Kevin made his comeback, he was pretty negative. Okay, it's good to have an opinion saying, when I first heard Kevin was making a comeback, I was sort of a bit shocked, but I'm like, hey, Kevin knows his body. If he can do it safely, I say good on him, same as Flex. So, but Sean's just so negative of everyone, rather than just say, look, I might not agree with it, but I wish him good luck. Same with Rich. You don't know the story what happened, so just come out and say, I wish Rich all the best and that sort of thing. So, and he's a God-fearing person, so he could have sent prayers and something like that, because he says he's a big believer in God, but yet his whole spiel was karma, this and that. Well, what sort of karma? Is that like, is he relating back to the N-word that he said? So he's thinking, we're getting back at him now. So who knows with Sean, it's like, who knows what goes on in that head of his? So I don't think he even knows.
John, what's your take on the whole Piana thing?
What's that?
What's your take on the whole Rich Piana situation?
First of all, I think it's sad that one of our own is
Absolutely.
in a coma fighting for his life right now. I mean, I think that's the big issue. We should all be rallying for one of our own to pull through. But you get guys like Sean Ray that are leading the charge for karma's a bitch. Well, like Lee just pointed out, like what's he being paid back for? Because he said the N-word 10 years ago, so he should die in a coma. Right. You know, I mean, it's very disingenuous for people in our industry to cast stones and aspersions at people who are suffering from something that quite likely could happen to them too. You know, right. The media's obsession with testosterone is disgusting. Secondly, the media's whole thing is 20 bottles of testosterone were found in the house. It's like, 20 bottles of Agent Orange were found in the garage. So it's how horrible a thing, how nefarious to find 20 bottles of testosterone, which would last, the average bodybuilder less than 6 months. So, the news, the media is just looking for something. They completely ignore the white powder chopped up with the credit card. That had nothing to do with it. It was the 20 bottles of testosterone in the medicine cabinet that is responsible for this big guy being in a coma. So, I think the media sensationalizing the fact that they're taking testosterone out of context, and dweebs like Sean Ray who are calling for, karma's a payback instead of sending prayers and good thoughts to one of our own. I think both of those entities go stuff this all up their ass because they got no place commenting in our industry with such vile negativity.
Chris Aceto blames Steve Bleckman for the Sean Ray comments, for allowing Sean to make those statements and not for, calling for his dismissal. What do you think about that, John?
Absolutely. That's what it is, because it's Bleckman thrives on controversy and controversy and sensationalizing when bad things happen. So I can just picture, one of those strategizing meetings of his. Yeah, Sean, you got to get on there and talk about, how terrible it is. He's getting he's in a coma now because he deserves it. I could hear that. So, Sean Ray is a puppet. All you got to do is pay him, and he'll do anything you want. He's the ultimate prostitute. He'll work for any company, any magazine, any website. He'll work for Lee Priest if Lee Priest paid him. So Sean's alliance is to the dollar. If you put money in front of Sean, he will hop up and down on one leg and bark like a dog. He'll do anything you want. So for him to be casting aspersions at Rich Piana for this unfortunate situation has everything to do with how much he's being paid and nothing to do with a original thought that he may have had in his hollow little head.
Lee, what do you think about that? You agree?
I think he should be got rid of from MD. Look at Mr. Controversy himself, me. When Steve used to have me say stuff and come out and do it, Lee, as John said, say this, say that. And then he got rid of me for saying this stuff when he was feeding it to me. So I used to tell people like, Lee, how do you know all this inside stuff? Lee, at a meeting, such and such was said, say this, so I say it. And people used to say to me, Lee, how do you know what's said at these meetings? I said, because fucking Bleckman was telling me. How else would you know that, I'm not there just because, whatever. But, yeah, as for Sean working for me, John, I got no work for him. This is Australia. We have sugar cane. He knows nothing about sugar cane. I don't have cotton down here, okay? So he's no fucking good to me. And that's not a racist comment either. That's me trying to give him work, all right? So knock that shit off.
Well, Lee, I'm glad that you switched over to veganism. John, you and I might be next, yes, because we don't want to see any more untimely deaths in our industry. Of course, we send our condolences out to the Meegan Hefford family. And of course, Rich Piana, if you're watching out there, we want to see you back and better than ever. Heal up quickly. Brother, you're missed. We love you. And that's about it for now. We are out of time. I'm Dave Palumbo with Lee Priest and John Romano for another installment of Iron Rage.